Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be all about the post-credit scenes from Captain America Civil War, so careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the movie yet. So there were two post-credit scenes. One was like a mid-credit scene addressing what happens to Winter Soldier, what's going on with Black Panther. The other is like an actual post-credit scene that happens after the very final credits, which is Spider-Man. Both very exciting, but I think the Spider-Man one is a little bit more fun, just because I'm really excited to see where Iron Man and Spider-Man go in this new franchise. Iron Man is just going to be a part of it, but an important part. Most of you know they dramatically changed the plot of Marvel's Civil War, so really there are only a few things that comic book Civil War has in common with movie Civil War, but Tony Stark's top-to-bottom redesign of Spider-Man's suit is just a nice nod to the Iron Spider suit of Civil War. Every once in a while Spider-Man gets a new suit. Civil War just happened to be a really cool version of the Iron Man suit. So even though the Russos did say he would probably get a new version of the suit for Infinity War, I'm expecting him to wear the same Spider-Man costume through most of his new trilogy. There will be 3 new Spider-Man films, at least that's what they planned. That might change down the road. There might be more than that, who knows. But there are a couple really important things that happen in that conversation with Aunt May. You know, as he's sitting in bed, kind of nursing his wounds, playing with the new toys that Iron Man gave him, Aunt May starts asking him about what happened, and he says, I met a friend from Brooklyn. He's talking about Captain America, so he still thinks of Captain America as a friend, even though he was on the other side of the fight. You should have seen the big guy talking about Giant Man. He was real big. So he really still is this little kid character, and I think that's why a lot of people love him, is because he's a kid playing a kid with all this weight thrust upon his shoulders. So he's going to be this really pure motor mouth character, as opposed to, say, you know, on the converse, a lot of people were comparing him to the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, how he might not have been the best character for that because he's such an introvert, he's so quiet. And during the film, when Spider-Man is fighting Winter Soldier and Falcon, it's a perfect example of what his character's like. He won't shut up. You know, there's not usually this much talking in a fight. Oh, sorry about that. That's pure Spider-Man from the comics, so that's going to be this version of Spider-Man in the new trilogy. So when we get that Homecoming movie next summer, he's going to feel just like he felt in this movie. Even though he'll be interacting with a bunch of different characters, it'll probably be localized to New York City. If you've been reading the comic books, they did make the new version of Peter Parker, like post-Secret Wars Peter Parker, more of an international character. There's a lot more Tony Stark type things going on in his background, but that's like a completely different version of the character. Movie Spider-Man will just be consistent across all the Sony films, all the Marvel films. It's a shared universe. It's like the shared Marvel Cinematic Universe. So they will maintain internal consistency across all those franchises. There were a lot of questions about what the actual web shooters do. So basically what Tony Stark gave him is a suit that's, I don't think it's anything special beyond like a really strong fabric. Maybe the Infinity War costume will be made out of vibranium. We'll talk about that in a second. But the first time he met Peter Parker, he talked about how he had to wear the goggles because he had this sensory overload. Like his eyes had started to work a lot more like Spider's eyes, so he was just getting too much input for his brain to handle. So that's why his suit has the irises. So when it gets way too intense, he can narrow his field of vision so he doesn't get too much input in the middle of a big fight. But that aside, he probably helped Spider-Man tweak the webbing a little bit, as well as the mechanics of the actual web shooter. So in addition to housing the fluid that he makes his webs from, it also has a version of the Friday interface. So you know, like Iron Man's heads-up display, it's kind of like that. Not quite the same thing, but it's based on the same technology. It's not like he has artificial intelligence or anything like that. He doesn't have a version of Friday. But think of the web shooters now as being like a Swiss Army tool with a bunch of different functions. He has the spider signal like in the comics. He also has a digital readout so he can access any kind of information that he might need, like an iPhone on steroids that can run different apps. So like he probably has diagnostic tools, any kind of software that you could possibly imagine. All the same software that Tony Stark runs inside his suits. But they're actually still locking down a lot of the bits for the Spider-Man movie, so I think once we find out who the main villain is, we can think about how Tony Stark might fit into that, because he's kind of stepping in and filling the Uncle Ben role, being like the surrogate father. And like I said in my Easter egg, or maybe my review video, I think that's going to help Tony Stark work through a lot of his grief over what happened during Civil War, work through the grief of his parents, never getting to say goodbye to his father. It sounds like based on what happened during the movie, that he was actually a pretty big dick that last time he actually talked to his father. I wish it would have gone down that way when he was looking at the fictitious version of it. So post-Civil War, Tony Stark is just like trying to get his shit together, deal with this new task force that he's working under, and it sounds like he's looking at Spider-Man and Aunt May as like this bright shining symbol of the ideal version of himself, like the son that he does not have. So I think the best way that the new Spider-Man movies could use Iron Man, you know, without him overpowering the movie, like if you bring him in like you brought him in Civil War, he could almost outshine Spider-Man, and that's not the goal. It's going to be a Spider-Man film. but I think he could be an advisor for Spider-Man to go to when he needs help with a problem, if he needs some tech upgrades, maybe an assist in a big fight with a villain late in the movie. But just like Spider-Man balanced the tone of Civil War, just made it this awesome, really hopeful thing, I think that Iron Man could do the same thing for Spider-Man. But there's also all the fun Tony Stark, Aunt May scenes, just because Marissa Tomei and Robert Downey Jr. have so much history together. So it's just fun to watch the chemistry that they have on screen. And there are just so many ways they can take that. But moving on to the Black Panther post-credit scene. So here's the big deal with that. That's just giving you a look at Wakanda. We're going to be all up in it in the Black Panther movie. But I think the scene actually works better for people who don't know anything about the Black Panther character or Wakanda, because you hear it's in Africa, but you don't really get the sense that it's this very wealthy, very scientifically advanced nation, despite being near a lot of third world countries. So it can be a bit of a double take. Like you see all the technology that they have looks super advanced. They kind of addressed it during the movie where King T'Chaka is saying, we have this history of isolating ourselves from the world. We're not going to do that anymore. So now that Black Panther is king of Wakanda, he's going to be taking a larger role in world affairs. And the fun thing, they don't really address it too much in the movie, but Everett Ross, played by Martin Freeman's character, is a big Black Panther comic book character. So I think we're going to see him show up during the Black Panther movie. So what about the Winter Soldier? What's going to happen to him? And what's going to happen to Black Panther's relationship with Captain America? Well, he'll probably assist Captain America a little bit, but it sounds like Black Panther's mostly going to be working with the government version of the Avengers, the Tony Stark Avengers, not Captain America's Secret Avengers. But Kevin Feige did say that they're committed to making a Black Widow Phase 4 movie. He didn't say Phase 4, he just said they're committed to making a Black Widow movie. And based on the timeline, it just sounds like it would fit better into Phase 4 if they already got so many films during Phase 3, but anything could happen. I think Winter Soldier would be a good person to bring back for a Black Widow movie because they have so much history in the comics. Even if you don't immediately bring him back in present day, like you don't unfreeze him right away, which they probably would in a new movie, there's another whole Winter Soldier movie in all the backstory we haven't seen. Like we've seen a couple flashbacks, him killing Tony Stark's parents, him getting unfrozen for a couple missions, but there's so much history there. Ever since he became the Winter Soldier after World War II, he would get unfrozen on a regular basis to go on missions, then get refrozen. So think about all those Winter Soldier missions that we haven't seen. Do you remember killing them? I remember everyone. I don't know if they actually confirmed that Winter Soldier's coming back for Infinity War. He might, but when he does come back, I think he'll probably end up getting a vibranium arm. Now that we have Black Panther, that doesn't automatically mean he's just going to start passing vibranium around to everyone, but it'd be really awesome to see Iron Man make a vibranium suit, Spider-Man get a vibranium version of his suit. It's what you would call vibranium weave, so it works a little bit more like Vision's suit, although Vision just kind of manifests his suit. He can change his appearance at will, but when you look at the green suit here, that's kind of the texture that I think a Spider-Man vibranium suit would look like. But let me know in the comments, do you think that by the time we get to Infinity War, you'll see vibranium upgrades for everybody's suits? That would actually be pretty badass. And in related news, I know it's still a little ways off, but I'll probably start doing more Guardians of the Galaxy videos. That's going to be the spring movie next year. There should be some more Doctor Strange stuff coming down the pipe too. They haven't really dropped any new teasers or trailers recently, but once we get closer to the summer, we'll probably start seeing a lot more of that. And it's not super related, but let me know in the comments. They're actually getting ready to drop a new Voltron series on Netflix. If that's something that you guys would want me to make videos for, just let me know. It actually looks pretty cool because it's being animated by the same people that animated Legend of Korra. Giveaway time. Congratulations to this week's ticket giveaway winner, Amado Kareem. You win a gift certificate for 2 IMAX tickets. Be sure to private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. That's just on the About page. While you guys wait for my next video to post, you can click here for my Game of Thrones video from last night, and you can click here for all my Civil War Easter eggs. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.